I've had the rough idea floating in and out of my head to do a video like this specifically for a Gravity Falls character for at least 2 years now, but never made the time to fully commit to the idea. Albeit whether other ideas at the time became more of a priority or real life stuff getting in the way, but now I'm awake. Also, when doing these rough brainstorms, I initially wanted to do this video about Fiddleford McGucket first, but I figured it'd be better if I started with a main character, in case I did want to do more of these videos down the line. But yeah, it's the timeline of Stanley Pines, from the time of his birth until the events after Bill Cipher's defeat. Of course, certain parts of the series come before others when it comes to the time and years taking place, so everybody good? Okay, pog. On June 15th, circa 1954, Stanley Pines was born to Philbrick and Karen Pines in Glasshard Beach, New Jersey, about 15 minutes after his twin brother Stanford. Circa 1960, Stan and Ford are panting a boat they found in a cave when a bully named Krampelter begins to harass them. The bullying got bad enough to the point where Stan's father would sign he and Ford up for self-defense boxing lessons around the same time period. Circa 1970s, Stan is now around high school age. During this time period, Stan wins the heart of Hot Pants Carla by fending off a robber thanks to his boxing skills. He also gets dumped by Carla in the same time frame thanks to the transcendental hippie music of Thistle Downey. Stan would also unintentionally sabotage his brother Ford's chances from getting into his dream college by slamming the table Ford's science project was set on. The next day, both Ford and their parents would find out about the sabotage, prompting their father to kick Stan out of the house, not welcoming him back into the family until he's able to make potential millions he cost them by breaking Ford's machine. From 1972 to 1983, Stan travels around the United States as a traveling salesman, trying to sell products like the chamois, Stanco brand pitchforks, the rip-off band-aids, and standbacks. By the way, every product he used being a pun of or being straight up named after a synonym of the word scam was amazing. Shortly into the sales game in 1973, he got into a fistfight with Marvel Comics legend Stan Lee. This was actually never mentioned in the Gravity Falls series, but rather in the Gravity Falls comic Lost Legends, which was released in July of 2018. Because every single product Stan made was a scam, it resulted in him constantly changing his name to names like Steve Pinington while having to make new fake IDs for himself. And all of these failures resulted in him being banned in 32 of the 50 states in the US and spending time in prison at least 3 different times during these 11 years. Somewhere between late January and mid-July of 1983, Stan would be living at a motel in New Mexico where he would receive a postcard from his brother Ford asking him to visit. But considering there was still snow on the ground when Stan arrived in Gravity Falls, it's likely he got there anywhere between January and mid-March. So not that long after Fiddleford left his partnership with Ford. Once Stan arrives, instead of being given a warm welcome and thinking they could go sail around the world together like Ford loosely implied, Ford just wanted Stan to hide his journal, aka Journal Number 1. This caused the two brothers to get into a physical altercation over the final journal. This fight ended with Stanford being sucked into the interdimensional portal and the machine losing its power after he was gone. After weeks of being able to turn the machine back on, Stan was forced to go into town because the food in Ford's house ran out. While he was trying to purchase some bread with peso and some sugar, Lazy Susan, or I guess she was just Susan at the time, mistakes him for Ford. This catches the attention of Daryl Blubbs, Ma and Pa, and Toby Determined. They begin talking about how they'd do anything to see what kind of cool experiments go on in the shack. This gives Stan the idea to give them a tour of the place so he can make a living while staying in Gravity Falls. He also tells the townsfolk his name is Stanford Pines, not Stanley Pines. Although off to a rocky start, the first tour of the house was a success, eventually leading to the birth of the Murder Hut, later renamed the Mystery Shack for obvious reasons. Circa 1984 to 1998, Stan faked his death in a car crash so he could play the part of his brother to the fullest. There was never actually an exact or even rough date given for when Stan pulled off this ruse. I'm going off the article Dipper and Mabel found because it said that leg warmers were all the rage around the time, and in real life, leg warmers were really popular in the 80s, so yeah. Circa early 2002, Stan would quote-unquote purchase the wax figures from a cursed yard sale, then put them into storage after they weren't doing well as an attraction. July 2002, Stan hires Seuss to work for him at the Mystery Shack. Now all the events from here on out take place once Dipper and Mabel arrive in Gravity Falls. Circa late May 2012, Stan Pines makes his debut appearance by scaring Dipper with a monster mask. Later, he's seen giving a tour of the Mystery Shack to some customers, specifically showing off the Sasquatch exhibit. It's quite unfortunate how that exhibit didn't turn into a running gag of some kind. I think there was definitely some potential there. June 1st, 2012, Stan instructs Dipper to hang some advertising signs in the spooky parts of the forest. Later in the day, he's lounging around the house when he meets Mabel's quote-unquote boyfriend Norman, later revealed to be a gnome tower. When Dipper is doing research with the mysterious journal he found in the woods, he thinks Norman might be a zombie and yells zombie, which catches Stan's attention, thinking someone yelled the word Crombie, and if that's even a real word. After Dipper sees footage of Norman's hand fall off, he runs over to Stan, who's in the middle of showing off a new attraction, Rock Face. Though Dipper struggles to get his attention because the customers are confused about if it's a face that looks like a rock or vice versa, so Stan has to explain that to him. After the long chase between Dipper, Mabel, and the giant gnome monstrosity, Dipper wonders if Grunkle Stan would be able to get them out of this pickle. Unfortunately for them, he's distracting customers as well as himself with the world's most distracting object. Poor guy couldn't even remember what he just said. Once the twins defeat the gnome army, Stan notices how dirty they look and asks if they got hit by a bus. Feeling bad about this comment, Stan allows each of them to take a gift from the gift shop free of charge. Stan's kind offer is what gave Dipper the opportunity to pick his signature hat. Mabel picked out a grappling hook, which Stan questions, thinking maybe she'd rather have a doll or something. As Dipper is finishing his end of the episode narration, we can see Stan using the secret vending machine door to do some more work on Ford's machine in another attempt to bring him back, which of course he would do every night. June 2nd, 2002. It's early morning and Stan tells the kids they're going to take the day off to have a family fun day. Put on your blindfolds, everyone.
Wait, what?
On their way to the spot for their family time, Stan is driving like an absolute maniac because of his cataracts, even mistaking a wooden guardrail for a woodpecker and plowing right through it. The surprise turns out to be a fishing trip on the lake. Stan tells them he's never had fishing buddies before because the guys at the lodge don't like or trust him. I love you, Stan, but I can't really blame those guys. He even gives the kids Pines family fishing hats, hand stitch and all. It'll be the best 10-hour uncle joke filled fishing trip ever. When old man McGucket makes his debut trying to warn people about the Gravity Falls gobblewonker, he compares its wrinkly skin to Stan's skin, who is barely paying attention and is more focused at getting the wax out of his ears. Also really sweet but sad how when Stan gets on the fishing boat, he named it the Stan War as an homage to Ford, since that's what they named the boat they found as kids. And then Seuss overhears the twins talking about going after the gobblewonker. Wait, real quick, let me try something.
You dude say something about a monster hunt?
You dude say something about a monster hunt?
You dude say something about a monster hunt?
I hate everything. Even though the twins clearly want to go with Seuss, Stan still tries to encourage them to fish with them. Sadly, he doesn't make the best case for himself. The poor guy's in denial about wanting company, saying the creepy fish lures are more than enough for him. After seeing how much fun the twins are having with Seuss, Stan tries to find human fishing buddies out in the lake, at which point he interrupts and ruins a man's proposal to his girlfriend by telling a corny joke about why marriage sucks. His second attempt to find one even ends more awkwardly than that, as he's talking to a random child whose parents are in the same boat. This guy just has zero social boundaries and it's absolutely hilarious. He even overhears a grandfather getting along with his two grandchildren and starts booing them out of jealousy. Feeling bad about how they ditched him, the twins decide to spend the rest of the evening with Stan, and Stan welcomes them aboard. Based on the little photo montage, it seems like they had a blast, even running from the feds at one point. June 7th, 2012. Seuss finds a hidden doorway in the mystery shack that contains several wax figures modeled after famous people throughout history. While exploring the room, they encounter Stan just standing there in the darkness and are more scared of him than they are of the statues. Stan shows everyone the wax figures, saying it was one of his most popular attractions, but I found that hard to believe considering it looked like he barely made any money from them, but sure. For those who might not know, the Goblin Man he referred to was talk show host Larry King. He wants to show off his personal favorite, wax Abe Lincoln, but it was melted by the sun because someone left the blinds open. Luckily, Mabel offers to make a new statue for Stan from scratch. While Mabel is trying to think of statue ideas, she's struck with inspiration when Stan walks in the room unintentionally posing while looking for his pants. Once Mabel finishes her statue of Stan walks in the room startled by his figure since he couldn't find his shoes at the time, but the statue looked so good he decided to reopen the wax museum. Stan holds a small ceremony for the reopening, with the statue of himself serving as the main attraction. The townspeople aren't very pleased with the show, and that's mainly because Stan promised free pizza for everyone. Of course, that was just a lie to make sure people showed up so he could get their money. Stan decides to celebrate this financial victory by watching Duck-tective with his wax self. Not weird at all, nope. But in a shocking turn of events, Stan finds his wax figure's head chopped off after returning from the bathroom. It's like real life turned into an episode of Duck-tective. Stan calls Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Derlin to see if they're able to deduce who might have done this, but of course they got nothing.
City boy! City boy!
As Dipper and Mabel head towards downtown to get more clues on the murder, Stan is dragging a coffin out from his trunk. He wants to have a memorial service for his wax self. Dipper and Mabel tell him they're going into town to find the murderer, which he encourages. Good thing he's just an uncle and not a parent. I don't know what it is about characters in Gravity Falls being drawn cross-eyed when they're trying to talk serious, but it's so hilarious to me. During the service, Stan gets so emotional he runs out crying, and so does Seuss. June 8th, 2012. Once the cursed wax figures are defeated, Stan walks into his parlor wondering how it became so messy. Stan doesn't question the twins' reasoning and is more happy they found wax Stan's head above everything else. June 10th, 2012. Stan is showing some customers the incredible sack of mystery, telling them if they put their money in the sack, it'll mysteriously disappear. How on planet Earth he got away with any of this, I will never know. Stan overhears Seuss and the twins talking about Gideon's commercial, telling them he's had nothing but trouble ever since he came to Gravity Falls. He forbids anyone who lives under his roof to go under Gideon's roof, but Gideon's business is in a tent, so they're able to go off anyway, technically. June 11th, 2012. With Mabel and Gideon spending so much time together after they met, Stan wonders why he sees them them together in the newspaper. Fueled with rage, Stan storms off to Gideon's tent to make sure they don't go out on a date ever again. Stan is greeted by Gideon's father, Bud Gleeful, when he arrives at their home. Bud manipulates Stan into thinking the kids dating would be a good business move, which Stan falls for. Stan even wants Mabel to marry Gideon to make sure this business deal doesn't fall through. Though after Gideon's fight with Dipper, he has it out for the entire Pines family now, which of course causes the business deal to fall through. Stan, upset with the deal being broken, decides to steal one of Bud's painting as payback. June 12, 2012. The family enjoys each other's company by making fun of Gideon's future attempt to destroy the family. Now that he no longer has his magic brooch, he's not very intimidating. June 13th, 2012. Stan walks into the mystery shack asking Wendy and Seuss if they're going to wash the bathrooms and stay out of trouble. Later that night, Stan is watching TV when a channel he doesn't like is on. He's too lazy to grab the remote, so he's forced to watch. This is one of my favorite bits in the entire show. Just look.
Stay tuned for the Friday night movie, The Duchess Approved, starring Sterling Stemmelburgess as the Duchess, and Grafton St. Rumterfrabble as the irascible coxswain Saunterblug and Hampshire.
The sheer pain Stan feels in that moment, mixed with the way the narrator is pronouncing those goofy-ass names, it gets me every time. Stan actually gets invested in The Duchess Approves, believe it or not, ignoring Dipper's desperate phone call to cry and eat ice cream. There's even an after-credits scene where Stan gets so into the show that he throws the TV out the window in a fit of rage when a character he didn't like returns. June 14th, 2012. Stan tries to sell some broken glass to Tyler Kupiker, saying they're crystals, when Dipper and Mabel ask if they can eat at the diner. Stan agrees he just wants to wait until Tyler makes up his mind, but Stan decides to just leave him in the store anyway because he's taking too long to decide what he wants. Once they arrive at the diner, Stan begins to flirt with Lazy Susan, if you even want to call it flirting. He places their orders for the twins without asking them. Mabel wanted pancakes, but because of the fancy flour they use these days, he didn't want to spend more money on them. Okay, dude. Dipper takes it upon himself to win the manliness tester machine to win them free pancakes, which both Stan and Mabel find hilarious. Stan tells Dipper why he's not as manly as he thinks, saying he smells like baby wipes, has no muscle, and bringing up the incident from last Tuesday.
Disco girl, coming through. That girl is you. Don't come in, don't come in!
Dipper tries to prove himself further by showing off chest hair, which of course there was none. You know, it was so smooth that Stan and Mabel were blinded by it. When Dipper fails at winning the pancakes, Stan continues to laugh at Dipper while wondering how he's even related to him. Mabel thinks that surely Stan has some kind of soft side too, which he declines. But once she sees how nervous he acts around Lazy Susan, she wants to spend the rest of the episode trying to get them together. Back at the mystery shack, Stan is shuffling around some carbs when Mabel walks in the room to take a before picture of him to remember what he looks like before her plan is complete. Step 1 is to see how Stan approaches women, so Mabel has Seuss dress up like Lazy Susan for roleplay. The first thing that comes to his mind is to hawk a loogie and ask her for money. Step 2 is the smile test. Even though he's trying as hard as he can to smile, he just looks like that one emoji with the perfect horizontal mouth with teeth showing. Seuss runs away in terror from the smile because of how bad it looks. Cue training montage. The aloe vera cucumber treatment, chest shaving, the book balance test, they did it all. Well, it doesn't seem like the montage did much good because he somehow looks worse than he did from the start. Though thanks to Wendy's mention of the spinning pie machine at the diner, Mabel comes up with a new idea that could help Stan even if he's being himself. Once they get there, Susan actually gives Stan her number since she loves fixing things so much and nothing needs more fixing than Stan, according to Mabel. Dipper comes back to the diner after refusing to kill the multi-bear, which Stan admires since Dipper stood up for what he believed in, and that's more manly in Stan's eyes than being peer pressured into doing something you don't want to do. They end their day at the diner with Stan telling Dipper not to worry about the chest hair so much because if he's anything like Stan, he'll have more in no time. June 15th, 2012. Stan is setting up a party and hopes it'll get more kids to spend money at the shack. If they want fun, we gotta smother them. Stan asks Dipper to make copies of party flyers to get the word out. I love how it says, free? Show up and find out. Dipper initially planned to go to the store to make copies, but Stan suggests using the copier in the house that he just fixed up. Back on the dance floor, Stan announces everyone's duties at the party. Seuss will DJ, Dipper and Wendy will work the ticket stand, and Mabel does whatever she wants. Once the party begins, Stan's proud of how well it turned out, even more excited about how he's charging a $15 exit fee. When Dipper tries to ditch the ticket stand for a few so he can hang with Wendy, Stan catches him in the act, forcing Dipper to stay put. He did promise after all. When Stan is trying to grab some ice at one of the tables, one of the Dipper clones tries to bait him away with some money on a fishing line, which he easily falls for even though he said he wouldn't. When Seuss is deciding the winner of Pacifica and Mabel's contest, Stan comes in and gives Mabel a round of applause. Looks like he got the money too. Circa June 16th through June 18th, 2012. Stan and the kids are stuck in traffic and he notices it's Pioneer Day in Gravity Falls. He tries to make a break for it, but before he knows it, horse-drawn carriages have circled his car so he can't leave. He explains explains what Pioneer Day is to the twins, then threatens Tommy Determined for being too in character. Mabel asks Stan if he'll come to the opening ceremony. He declines and reminds the kids that they come back talking like they're from the 18th century, they're dead to him. Later, he tries to leave downtown, but his car is stuck in the mud, and he tries talking to Steven the mechanic for help, but though, unfortunately for Stan, Steve is committed to staying in character, which angers him. The feds come over and put Stan in the stocks because of the scuffle that he had with Steven. Gideon notices him and starts pelting him with tomatoes. He tries to use a hair clip to unlock the stocks, but drops it right by Pacifica. She says she'll help him if he writes that the Northwest family is the best family in Gravity Falls. Instead, he writes, "You stink" in all caps with just his mouth. As payback, Pacifica calls over several people to pelt Stan with more tomatoes. At the end of the episode, the twins find Stan and let him out while he complains about everything he went through. I'm sure talking to Seuss for an hour isn't so bad. That's pretty much just like talking to me for an hour. Maybe not the best example. June 19th, 2012. Stan sets up a fair around the Mystery Shack, the cheapest fair money can buy. He then asks the twins to post fake inspection certificates on any attraction that could result in a lawsuit. Right after he checks on the dunk tank Seuss is making, he realized he can't find his red screwdriver. Unknown to Stan, it was taken by Morty Smith. Blendon Blandum. Stan is now inside the dunk tank and announces it's open while egging people on to try and dunk him. Of course, since it's rigged, nobody is able to succeed, which he finds hilarious. During Dipper's several attempts to win the stuffed creature for Wendy, nothing is able to knock Stan down. Eventually, he is knocked down by Lulf the Time Traveler using a high-tech gun. Nice foreshadowing there, Seuss. At least he was able to enjoy himself underwater by laughing at Robbie's misfortune. June 19th, 2012. The day starts with Seuss showing Stan and Mabel his favorite arcade hangout. Stan falls for a scam arcade game that does nothing but show a congratulations message anytime someone inserts a token. Doesn't feel so good when you're the one getting scammed, huh, Stanley? June 20th, 2012. The next day, the Pines family and Seuss are playing cards and Mabel is smoking them. Granted, she's playing Go Fish while everyone else is playing poker. Stan, being the responsible adult he is, goes to make popcorn to watch Robbie beat up Dipper instead of helping his nephew. I aspire to be like that. While Dipper's freaking out about how he's going to deal with the fight, Stan suggests knocking him out cold over the head, which is nature's snooze button. To end the discussion, Stan wonders if Dipper is going to face Robbie like a man or hide like a wimp, which of course Dipper chooses to hide. Further in the day, Stan overhears Mabel worrying about Dipper by adding fears are for chumps and he fears nothing. When Stan is unable to reach glue on the top cabinet, he goes on about how he doesn't have any ladders in the house, but he owns 10 guns. This gets Mabel thinking he's got a secret fear of heights that she wants to confirm for herself, so she decides to buy him high heels. When that doesn't work, he unwillingly freaks out over a skydiving show once he fixes the TV antenna, getting him to admit his fear. This time, Mabel tricks Stan into leaving the house. It's super obvious that she's lying about taking him someplace high, but he's an idiot, so. The place she takes him is to the top of a water tower. Stan's so scared that he refuses to take his hands off the railing, he can barely speak properly either. After Rumble McSkirmish's attack on the water tower, Stan is so relieved that he survived that he's no longer scared anymore. But now, Mabel is. June 21st, 2012. Stan and the kids are in the living room watching Ducktective when a man who Stan thinks is a tax collector comes to the door. He starts freaking out trying to find a trap door to escape with a duffel bag of money, but it turns out the guy is from Coupon Savers contest to tell Stan he's won a cash prize. But the guy was just an actor hired by Gideon to trick Stan into signing over the Mystery Shack. However, Stan's too smart to fall for Gideon's tricks and writes, "Suck a lemon, little man," instead of his signature. After Gideon leaves, Stan goes back to watching TV with the twins. Later on, Stan hears Dipper being taunted about his height, which piques his interest. He never misses a chance to poke fun at others. Even after Dipper walks away, Stan and Mabel continue to make short puns at his expense. Gideon comes back again with a jar of ancient termites that he threatens to break open if Stan doesn't hand over the deed to the shack. Stan is able to distract Gideon by making him think there's something behind him so he can just knock the jar over. Seeing Gideon in pain, Stan hopes he's able to get some pictures before he runs away. Cut to Seuss setting up a maze of mirrors that Stan's very impressed with, thinking he'll be able to make a fortune off it. When the phone rings, Stan answers to hear Gideon calling to tell him he has the twins held captive. Of course, Stan doesn't believe him and thinks Gideon's even crazier when he mentions texting a photo for proof. Boomer Stan, everybody. Boomer Stan. With Gideon's new plan to ambush Stan with the shrinking crystal, he tries to chase him through the mirror maze. Gideon is able to lure Stan out by breaking a bunch of mirrors. He wants Gideon to pay for each quote-unquote $500 broken mirror. Even on the brink of being shrunk and captured, he still wants to profit somehow. But just when Stan is cornered, the twins are able to halt Gideon by tickling his armpit. Stan's super weirded out by Gideon's laughter since he has no clue the twins are causing it, so he tries to just give Gideon a little pep talk before rolling him out of the store. June 22nd, 2012. It's Summerween in Gravity Falls. Stan, Seuss, and the twins arrive at a Summerween superstore. Nice job parking in the handicap spot there, bud. Apparently, the people in Gravity Falls love the Halloween festivities so much, they celebrate it twice a year. Stan wants to get a barrel of fake blood to scare the kids away from the Mystery Shack. After a worker threatens to eject the family from the store, Stan throws up a smoke bomb and everyone escapes with what they need for free. To add insult to injury, he reverses into one of the inflatable watermelons the store set up before flaring off. For Summerween night, Stan dresses up as Dracula, also questioning why Grenda's voice is so deep before walking away. Stan's first group of scare victims arrives at the house. He's able to scare off most of them with a fake face melting stunt, but 2 of the kids aren't very impressed. Until he's able to scare the kids, he's not allowing them to leave. With Stan's alien reenactment with Waddles also failing, he wonders what could possibly scare these kids. They show Stan a jump scare video that makes him run back into the house out of fear. Depressed and feeling like he lost his edge, Stan calls it a night and prepares a bath for himself. Little did he know the 2 kids snuck into the house looking for him so they could get their candy. And they find him right when he takes his bathrobe off. There's nothing scarier than a wrinkly, hairy chest of an old man. With everyone back together at the house, Stan's able to realize the true meaning of Summerween. To spend time with their loved ones, to celebrate pure evil. But of course. July 6th, 2012. Stan and the twins are watching one of Stan's favorite shows, Cash Wheel, when Seuss barges in, letting Stan know there's a whole busload of tourists that have arrived. Delighted to see all these people, he wants Seuss to make more attractions on the spot and Wendy to raise price tags. While giving a tour to the tourists, he shows off one of the craziest photos I've ever seen. A horse riding another horse. Remarkable. The next attraction he shows off is Dipper dressed in a wolf costume advertised as the preteen wolf boy who dances if money is thrown at him. After Mabel gives something away for free, Stan freaks out, telling her to get off register duty, but she and Dipper start to show noticeable signs of annoyance with Stan's management style, which he thinks if they have a problem with, they should take it up with the complaints department, aka a trash can. Afterwards, he has all 4 employees paint a large billboard with glitter to attract more tourists. Giddy with all the money he's made from the new tourists, he laughs while looking at all the money he's made. Mabel lets out her complaints, wondering why Stan didn't let Seuss be the Mystery Shack mascot. He tells her you gotta command respect when you're a boss. You can't give your employees everything they want or they'll walk all over you. Since they were still at odds, the 2 make a bet that Mabel thinks she can make more money being in charge, and Stan thinks he could earn more money while he's on vacation for 3 days. If Mabel wins, she gets to be the boss for the rest of the summer, but if Stan wins, Mabel has to wear a shirt that says loser on it for the rest of the summer. Before Stan drives away with his head still high, he gives Mabel his staple fez. Stan's plan to beat Mabel in earnings is to enter the Cash Wheel game show and win. While in the audition line, Stan grows impatient and decides to fake a heart attack to guarantee him a spot on the show. Even though he's already causing a ruckus on live TV, Stan's a natural at the game, being able to solve the first puzzle just off of 2 S's being in the phrase. He was so excited to get Cash Shower that when he actually landed on it, he started taking off his clothes like it was a real shower. Having racked up $100,000 already, Stan gives a message to Mabel letting her know he'll be back tomorrow night, showing the cameras the loser shirt. For the special last round, Stan can choose to play it out for a double or nothing or go home now with $300K. Of course, being the crazy motherfucker Stan is, he chooses the bonus. The final word is please, but since Stan has never used that word in his life, he doesn't guess it correctly, thus losing all of his money. Rich even told him that it started with a P. Like, come on, man. He returns to the store to tell the kids what happened. Even though he lost, the family doesn't want Mabel to be the boss anymore, but Mabel still wants him to do the apology dance, which he does in the end credits scene. Very nice orange tracksuit, by the way. I like it. July 7th, 2012. These are the events that lead to the beginning of the episode Bottomless Pit. Stan and the twins are on the side of the roof with Manly Dan, who's helping them get a bear under control. Stan's plan is to teach the bear how to drive so he can make a fortune. The bear isn't driving too horribly, believe it or not, considering the awful direction Stan is giving him. Eventually, Blubs and Derlin find the car and pull it over, wondering what's going on. Stan gives them a lie about how the bear is a service animal. He even gives them a fake doctor's note from Dr. Medicine, which they bought. Back at the shack, Stan is spray painting stones gold to trick people into thinking they're real gold nuggets. When Mabel questions why he lied to the cops, he tells her sometimes it's okay to lie for the greater good. Right after saying this, he lies to Dipper about what happened to his plate of spaghetti, telling him Seuss ate it when it was him. Later that night, when Stan's asleep, Mabel replaces his normal dentures with golden truth-telling teeth that force him to tell the truth all the time, no matter what. To test the teeth out, she wakes up Stan up to ask him what really happened to Dipper's spaghetti. Stan tells her he ate it, but he doesn't question why he was so honest. July 8th, 2012. While Stan is cooking some eggs, Dipper asks him what he usually does on his lunch break, to which he responds he scratches himself in unmentionable places. He also tells them he's gonna go to the bathroom without washing his hands. His constant truth-telling begins to hurt his daily routine a lot. He made fun of a guy's appearance in front of the whole store, which made a bunch of customers leave, tried to snitch on himself to the IRS about tax fraud, and making Dipper and Mabel contemplate life. The straw that broke the camel's back was Stan letting the twins know he has a growth forming on his back. When Sheriff Blubs and Deputy Derlin come to confront Stan about his doctor lie, he of course tells them the truth and then some. Thankfully, Mabel is able to save face with a lie about Stan being a crime fiction author. But even after they leave, Stan calls the police station to tell them he forgot to mention his tax fraud as one of his crimes. Then Stan, Seuss, and the twins arrive at the location known as the Bottomless bottomless pit. They're at this location to get rid of things they don't want, and Stan wants to get rid of Mystery Shack suggestion cards. Out of nowhere, the wind starts picking up like crazy, and everyone except for Stan tries to take shelter. The rest of them try to force Stan back inside while he's still trying to get rid of the suggestion cards, but the wind is too strong and it knocks them all into the pit. As they're all falling, Stan tries to lighten the mood with some card tricks, though right when he takes the cards out, they just fly upwards to the surface. Want to give a heads up, since the stories that were told in the bottomless pit never technically happened to the characters besides the last one, so I'm not going to go over the events that took place in those. After Dipper finishes his story, Stan starts getting bored and wants Seuss to tell one. Stan was not very impressed with Seuss's stories, so he decides to tell his own story called Stan Wins the Football Bowl, which is basically just him getting a winning touchdown at a football game. Nobody else liked that story but him, though. And once Mabel is finished retelling the events that led up to the bottomless pit, Stan comments liking the part with the bear. When the gang gets popped back out of the hole, they agree the story should be kept to themselves, but Stan's dumbass falls into the pit again alone this time. Good thing it eventually pops you back out, so he doesn't have to worry. July 9th, 2012. It's over 110 degrees in Gravity Falls, so Stan is doing his best to stay cool by eating some ice cream. Even though he's annoyed with Waddles, he doesn't dislike him enough to throw him out of the house. After the radio announces the Gravity Falls pool is open, Stan wants to rush over to the car. When he tries to get up, he's stuck to the wood from all the sweat. So stuck that part of the floor was still on his back when he got up. Then he was set on fire right when he went outside.
He'll be fine.
When walking outside the pool, Stan comments about how pools are like buses just wet. And after Mabel runs after Ramondo, Stan gets hit by a water balloon thrown by Wendy. Since she technically has authority over him here, she continues throwing more water balloons at him until he runs away. Stan shows Seuss the perfect lawn chair at the pool and what makes it so perfect. But as he's about to sit down, Gideon yoinks the chair right under his nose. When Stan forcefully picks Gideon off the chair, Wendy throws him in pool jail out of spite. The kid next to Stan asks him how long he's in there for, which is 2 hours for roughhousing, but he still claims his innocence. After he is released from pool jail, Stan tries to use the reflecting light from his watch to burn Gideon, but this plan backfires when Gideon uses his sunglasses to reflect the light back into Stan's eyes, knocking him into the pool. Later in the night, Stan tries to sneak into the pool grounds to make sure he can secure his spot in the chair. When Night Patrol Dipper wants him to leave, Stan rushes past him. With Dipper now focused on Mabel, Stan is now able to sit in the chair, just 15 more hours. Unfortunately for Stan, Gideon predicted Stan would act this way, so he got covered in glue the next day. The timeline gets a little weird around here because even though more than one day will technically pass in an episode, Journal number 3 says the Land Before Swine takes place on July 11th, which doesn't 100% add up for proper continuity, so I might be a day or two off for the next couple episodes, just bear with me here. July 10th, 2012. Stan's enjoying his morning scrolling through a bunch of different fight channels. Baby fights was definitely my favorite. When Dipper and Mabel are at odds about sharing a room, Stan denies their request to separate, mainly because there isn't another room in the shack. That is until Seuss finds a hidden room while cleaning up around the place. Stan plays it off like he knew nothing about this room, all the while he picks up a pair of his brother's glasses mid-sentence. Although Stan still cares for his brother's safety, it's clear at this point in the timeline he still holds animosity towards Ford since he implied that the experiments he was doing were terrible. In this instance though, I'm sure he meant weird/geeky. Since both twins want the secret room, Stan uses this as an opportunity to take advantage of them by having them suck up to him as much as possible. Stan definitely seems like he's Team Mabel though, taking away points from Dipper for trying too hard, but giving Mabel more points for trying way too hard. The next task he gives them is to retile the roof in 100-degree heat. I love how he gives himself props for being a good uncle while the twins are outside trying to kill each other. He lays into Dipper some more when he and Mabel are mowing the lawn, and he's enjoying that lemonade a little too much. The good life was short-lived for Stan though. After the twins mind swapped, all they did was try to sabotage each other, making his day less enjoyable. Time passes and Stan notices Mabel in Dipper's body, spying on Candy and Grenda. Stan notices and thinks it's time to give Dipper the talk. Stan whips out a book titled Why Am I Sweaty and lectures Mabel about how everything starts with the pituitary gland. After he's done ruining Mabel's childhood, Stan thinks it would be best to give the room to who he thinks is Dipper. This decision is set once Mabel tries to insult Stan, but he mistakes it as standing up to him, which is something he's been waiting for. Stan walks in on Waddles and Seuss's body, trying to tell him that his pay will be cut. This decision was quickly overturned after Waddles put his hand on Stan's face and started breathing super hard. It freaked out Stan into giving Seuss a raise instead. It's really sweet seeing Stan so focused on his brother's old glasses that he's not paying attention to the fight channel or the noise coming from the cigar room. Stan is happy to see Dipper setting up his stuff in the room, then he takes the electric carpet away. July 11th, 2012. Stan is seen on the security camera helping a customer, although his voice can't be heard since it's Wendy and Dipper dubbing over him for a joke. He's later seen stacking meat for the apocalypse. Even before knowing Bill existed, he still thought the apocalypse would happen. Go figure. Dipper tells Stan about Robbie's hypno music, which brings back Stan's memory of Carla Hotpants breaking up with him. With someone else going through something similar to him, especially a family member, Stan decides to help Dipper get to the bottom of this mystery. Right after he finishes throating some meat, of course. Stan explains to Dipper that all music has hidden subliminal messages in it, even the music he plays in the shack.
Buy more keychains! Buy more keychains!
The best way to hear them is to slow it down via a record player, but it's a CD, so it doesn't work. Stan walks by Mabel helping out several times, but doesn't seem to notice them in time. Stan's disappointed that slowing down the song once it was converted still doesn't show any messages, until Dipper tries to rewind it, causing Stan to spit take in amazement when there actually is a subliminal message. Finally, Stan has a reason to punch a teen in the face. To make sure they reach Wendy in time, Stan drives like a maniac the whole way up. After reaching the top of the cliff, Stan tries to correct Robbie about saying his name wrong even though he said it correctly. Stan and Dipper high-five each other after Robbie is exposed in honor of guys out there who can't play music. He also tries to cheer Robbie up by letting him know the apocalypse is coming soon and making sure he buried gold. Stan and Dipper end their day with a nice pep talk about how the Wendy situation will work itself out. But towards the end of their convo, Stan has to go outside and chase away one of these several times members because he's eating out of their trash. Still, July 11th, 2012, Stan is giving a golf cart tour around the Mystery Shack and shows off the outhouse of mystery. Even though it's an outhouse, he doesn't let a kid who has to go to the bathroom use it. Stan comes back inside after finishing the tour but trips over Waddles on his way in. He wants Waddles outside after Waddles starts chewing on his pants. Even though it's not safe out there, Stan retorts that it's just the natural order of things. But because he loves Mabel so much, he agrees to take care of Waddles for a little while she's away. His patience for Waddles grows thinner by the minute, especially after Waddles destroys one of Stan's exhibits, so he decides to put him outside for 10 minutes. Looks like it only took about 20 seconds before he was taken away by a pterodactyl though. Stan stares away in shock and panics hardcore when Mabel gets back. Tells her a phony story about how the dino broke into the house and he tried to fight it off before it got away. The first stop on the journey to save Waddles is an old church where Old Man McGucket is chilling in. He lets the gang know the dino flew under the church into the abandoned mines. Stan shows he's nervous about this, but has to put on a tough act when Mabel reminds him about how he punched a pterodactyl. When the gang discovers several other dinosaur species frozen in tree sap, the first thing that comes to Stan's mind is turning it into an attraction for the shack. Stan's ranting about how he'll turn the place into an attraction made him accidentally reveal the truth about Waddles. Mabel decides she's never going to speak to him again, and when the pterodactyl shows back up and forces everyone into hiding, Stan suggests dressing Seuss up as a pig to sacrifice him. When Mabel rescues Waddles, he starts freaking out and tackles Stan, causing the two of them to fall into an even more prehistoric looking mine area. Since the two of them are stuck with each other down there, Stan begins to realize his mistake. Mabel's happiness is just as important as his. He essentially pulled an Usopp from One Piece here by turning a story that started off as a lie into an eventual truth, which was fighting the pterodactyl to protect Waddles. Stan's constant punching was enough to bring the thing down for a brief moment, letting Stan bury the hatchet with Mabel. The three of them end the rest of their day playing poker, which Waddles is a natural at, apparently. July 13th, 2012. Even though this was a Season 2 episode, it apparently took place during Season 1 timeline, so weird continuity. Because Seuss hates his birthday so much, Stan tried to have the date removed from the calendars, which somehow got him banned from flying. July 15th, 2012. Stan calls the kids down to make fun of Gideon's commercial. The commercial is saying there's going to be a new location for the tent, which is where the Mystery Shack currently is, but Stan's not worried. Until he hears Gideon break into his home to try to steal the deed for the shack. Stan easily chases him out with a broom and Gideon acts like a rodent on his way out. Later on, the gang is watching a show called Grandpa the Kid, which Stan relates to. Stan gets into it with Dipper when Dipper refuses to get a bat out of the kitchen. Stan outstares Dipper, so he's gotta suck it up and do it. Gideon's plan to summon Bill Cipher to learn the code to Stan's safe has Bill invade Stan's mind while he sleeps. When the rest of the family is able to get inside Stan's mind, Dipper finds hidden memories of Stan calling him a loser. There's no way to tell what day this happened, so I'm just leaving it here. Seuss also finds a memory of Stan going into Ford's lab, but closes the door before Stan reveals what's down there. Dipper finds the memory of Stan again on accident and learns Stan wasn't directly referring to Dipper with those statements, but rather using them as examples from his past. He wants Dipper to be tough enough to fight back when the world gives him hard times. After Bill's quote-unquote defeat, Stan wakes up and is greeted with Dipper putting him in a chokehold, which makes him happy. But since Gideon knew Bill failed before the battle was done, his plan B, which was just to break in, was a success. Gideon stole the deed from Stan's safe. July 16th, 2012. The Pines family, now staying with Seuss and his grandmother, watch the news about Gideon gaining ownership to the shack. Stan's very eager to get out of there, especially after seeing Seuss eat food off his bare chest. When the Pines family sneaks into the planned ceremony, Stan rushes the stage with the twins after hearing Gideon's going to turn the shack into a Gideon-themed amusement park, though he's quickly taken away by Gideon's bodyguards. Back at Seuss's place, Stan talks to Dipper and Mabel's parents, lying to them about where they're staying. He decides to send the kids back to Cali since he can't properly take care of them. Stan eventually ends up at the diner super depressed, and he sees Seuss working as a server since he needed a new job. Stan just wishes he could show the town just how evil Gideon is. As the twins get to the bus to leave Gravity Falls, Stan gives a sad apology wishing he could have done more. Having hit rock bottom, Stan wonders how Gideon is always one step ahead of him. Thanks to his hearing aid going off, he's able to figure out Gideon's weakness. The pins he always gives people had hidden cameras in them. That's how he was able to learn so much information about others and be a quote-unquote psychic. Stan's hearing aid had been picking up the frequency from them. Gideon was arrested thanks to this information, and Stan was able to get his deed back. He then proudly announces on the news that the Mystery Shack is back. Stan goes to check up on the twins unpacking their things again when Dipper decides to tell him what he knows about the journals. Of course, Stan plays it off thinking it's all make-believe, but in truth, Stan's finally able to start the final step to bring his brother back. He's able to properly turn the machine all the way on. You'll be back soon, my brother. Season 2 time. Still the same same day from the end of season 1, Stan continues to power the portal by pulling down another lever. The power surge was so strong that it got attention from the US government. July 21st, 2012. Stan wakes up from another long night of tinkering with Ford's portal to host a small ceremony for the reopening of the Mystery Shack. Not without some classic Gideon slander, of course. There's also going to be a party at 8 to celebrate some more. After everyone leaves, Dipper wants the third journal back, which he gives him, but that was actually just a copy of the original since he still needs the original. Stan kicks everyone out of the Mystery Shack when he sees the government agents pull up to interrogate him. They're investigating mysterious activity coming from Gravity Falls and want to check out the shack for anything suspicious. Stan tries to get them to leave, but they force their way in. But Stan is eventually able to get them to leave when he brushes Dipper's journal talk off as an overactive imagination. He also prevents Dipper from going out of his way to talk to the agents. Later that night, Stan and Mabel are talking about the karaoke and how much he dislikes singing because he sounds terrible. And then he notices almost the entire town has shown up to the party. But he gets concerned when he sees Dipper and Wendy left their post. He catches Dipper in the middle of calling the agents and grounds him for sneaking in. But shortly after, Stan is going into Ford's lab again. He's rambling about how the agents could ruin everything and how Dipper doesn't realize what he's messing with. I believe Stan has another flashback about his scuffle with Ford when he mentions his stubbornness. It gets me every time, honestly. But he gets back to the machine so he can focus. Thankfully, he's able to come in clutch when it counts when Dipper and Mabel are being attacked by zombies, knocking some heads off zombies to protect the kids. Even using brass knuckles when his bat is destroyed. This whole sequence was one of my favorite Stan moments from the entire show. It's so badass. Once he reunites with the kids in the attic, he tells Dipper he's known about the supernatural stuff all along, and the reason he played dumb was in an effort to keep Dipper away from it. They find out zombies are weak to 3-part harmonies, which leads to a 3-way cover of Taking Over Midnight. Apparently, the song's a parody of Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. I knew it sounded familiar, but I could never put my finger on it. Once the zombies are defeated, Stan and Dipper come to an agreement that the journal will only be used for self-defense and Stan can't hide any more secrets. Like uncle, like nephew. July 21st to July 23rd, 2012. Stan is instructing a bunch of construction workers while they clean up damage from the zombie attack, and he also lies to one of the workers about the cause, saying it was a giant woodpecker. July 24th, 2012. Stan walks in on Dipper watching TV and asks him if he wants any Stan cakes. After Mabel runs in with the newspaper giddy about her fashion article, Stan points out Pacifica is the one on the cover. He's also grossed out by how much makeup she's wearing. He then encourages Mabel to go mini golfing to cheer up. Once they get to the first hole of the course, Stan is amazed with Mabel getting a hole-in-one so quickly. Later, he tries to cheer Mabel up after she misses the hole-in-one on the last hole, saying she's still the best in Gravity Falls. That is, until Pacifica shows her up. He wants to hit her so bad, it's actually insane. The family's eating dinner at Hermanos Brothers, or I guess Brothers, and Stan suggests breaking into the course early so Mabel can practice some more before her rematch with Pacifica. He pries open a piece of fence so the kids can get in and then gives Mabel a "You the Best" sticker, wishing her good luck. Stan and Seuss are waiting for the kids in his car, so he tries to lay down and relax. Seuss makes his move on Stan, which creeps Stan out, making him leave the car right away. Once the rematch is over, Stan comes back to pick the kids up and then sings his classic driving song on the way back. July 27th, 2012. Stan sees everyone singing a puppet song and walks away instantly with shame. July 28th, 2012. Stan continues to ignore Mabel's puppet face at the breakfast table, also commenting on Mabel Juice looking like the child between coffee and nightmares. Stan's later seen driving everyone to the puppet show except Dipper, since Dipper is a spirit and he doesn't see the real him. Later, sitting in the auditorium, Stan tells Mabel he wouldn't miss her show. It's weird how she's asking that though, since he was the one who drove her there, but okay. Later, he films Mabel fighting Bill inside Dipper's body, hoping to sell the footage. Foreshadowing. July 29th, 2012. Stan tells Seuss to have a good night as he leaves for the day and tells Mabel he's never once thought about what Seuss does away from work. A kid walks through the store that Stan scares into putting a nickel in Goldie the Prospector. Even though the thing barely works, Stan refuses to give it away. Stan gives advice to Seuss about getting a date, which is be rich/pretend to be rich. Stan tags along with the gang to the mall so he can find a replacement for Goldie, but he ends up throwing him out instead. After that, he ends up in a Chuck E. Cheese-esque restaurant and sees how much money the animatronics make the place. He's determined to get an animatronic at all costs. Once he's back at the shack, he rants to Wendy about how much money those things make, which she couldn't care less about. Later that night, he plans to sneak in to steal the machine, but is already having trouble just getting out of his house. Stan uses an arcade ticket to get through the backstage door, and right as Stan is about to make his escape, Seuss's virtual girlfriend brings the thing to life and it fights back. It drags him outside trying to land another punch on him when Stan dodges and Goldie latches onto its arm. Thankful for being saved, Stan wants to take Goldie to Vegas, where the two of them turn up hardcore during the end credits. I'm not going to go into much detail about the Little Gift Shop of Horrors episode because it doesn't seem like that episode is actually part of the main timeline since it's a Halloween special. It's basically Stan telling scary stories to a single customer who's supposed to be you for the entire episode. It was still a nice episode though. July 30th, 2012. Everyone except for Stan leaves the shack to see Old Man McGucket because at the time they thought he was the author. Stan tries to to get them to come back, but fails and questions Seuss for eating his own pants. Stan's not seen again until later that night in the end credits, working on Ford's machine some more, feeling more determined than ever to bring him back. Circa August 1st through August 21st, 2012. Stan's putting a rainbow wig on a white gorilla when he notices all the commotion outside means the start of the Woodstick Festival. Seuss tries to calm Stan down by talking him into treating it like a business opportunity, which gets him thinking about young people liking hot air balloons. So Stan decides to make a hot air balloon, and they're almost done setting it up before the festival ends. Seuss is concerned about how it's built though, but Stan just wants more kerosene added. I'm glad they screwed up the finishing touches because it led to one of the funniest scenes in all of Gravity Falls. I love it.
Mommy, is the floating head going to eat us?
Yes, Charlie! Yes, he will!
After everyone is freaked out by real Stan now too, he learns to embrace being feared by the young instead of loved. Circa August 2nd through August 21st, 2012. Stan steals several barrels of toxic chemicals from a government facility to help power Ford's portal some more. Later in the morning, Stan sees the twins found his illegal fireworks and would like to join them in setting them off. They continue the family fun with a water balloon fight. Eventually, Stan tries to tell them about the portal situation and Ford, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it at the time. As he walks away, he's tackled by government agents who arrest him for stealing the toxic chemicals. He pleads his innocence, saying he was at home restocking, which was technically true, but he did both, so. And as he's taken away in the car, he pleads to the kids to believe his story. And Stan isn't able to speak straight while the agents interrogate him, trying to put the words guilty and innocent into one word. Only 5 hours left until Ford is back. Stan gets desperate trying to find a way to escape. Several hours pass and the agents are ready to take him to DC to jail. But thanks to the gravity anomalies, Stan's able to escape from the holding room in style, then uses a cab as bait to get the agents off his tail. He rushes back to the shack on foot as fast as he can to make sure he's there when Ford walks through. Stan is able to arrive right before Dipper shuts the machine down to tell him to stop. He insists that what he's doing isn't dangerous, but rather for the sake of the family. Dipper and even Seuss try to prevent Stan from keeping it on at all cost. Mabel was the only one who could still trust him in the end. He finally got his brother back to Earth after 30 years. Stan's incredibly happy to see him, but Ford, not so much. It's somewhat understandable though, since Stan was the reason he was trapped there in the first place. Stan tries to fight back, but is easily overpowered. When Ford notices Dipper and Mabel, Stan lets them know the twins are Shermie's grandkids, who's their younger brother. Ford also reveals Stan's full name is Stanley, which leads everyone to question Stan into telling his backstory with Ford. Once Stan finishes telling his past, he forgives Dipper for not believing him. Right after, he overhears the government agents upstairs and freaks out. Once the agents are gone, Stan makes the kids go to bed because he's got a lot to talk about with Ford. Ford tells Stan he can stay in the house for the rest of the summer to watch the kids, but after that, he's got to shut the mystery shack down and give Ford his identity back. Stan's still really upset that Ford still hasn't thanked him for getting him back to Earth, so he wants him to stay out of the kids' lives. Circa August 3rd through August 21st, 2012. Stan's relaxing in the shack lobby when Ford bursts through the vending machine door fighting some kind of octopus alien. Stan tries to kill it with his newspaper, but fails. Dipper wants to go help Ford out, but Stan thinks it's best he stays away because of how dangerous his work is. Instead, Stan wants him to stay upstairs and watch the Detective finale with he and Mabel. Later in the day, Stan notices Dipper's Dungeons, and More Dungeons game and makes fun of how nerdy it is. And to prepare for the finale, he's gathered tons of snacks, candies, and sodas to watch. He also recreated a model of Detective with spare taxidermy parts. Circa August 4th through August 21st, 2012. Stan dresses fancy for the finale party, bow tie and all. His hype is halted when he sees Dipper and Ford taking up the entire living room to play DDD. He gets into an argument with Ford, which leads to him throwing Ford's infinity-sided die on the ground, unleashing Probabilitor the Annoying. Fun fact, he's voiced by Weird Al Yankovic. Stan isn't in much of a rush to rescue his brother because he's hoping Probabilitor could take a few bites of Ford's brain to even things out in the intelligence department, but he eventually agrees to go on an epic wizard quest to rescue Ford and Dipper. On their way there, Grenda potentially kills an ogre and Stan tells her to take that to her grave. Once they get to Ford's location, Stan and Mabel are forced to play a real-life version of DDD to save their brothers. Probabilitor has them cornered with the Impossibeast that can only be defeated with a lucky 38. Luckily, Stan is the king of dumb luck and lands it, winning them the game. But it was actually gum the whole time. Stan apologizes to Dipper for making fun of him and encourages him to hang out with Ford more if he enjoys it that much. It's too bad the finale he was so hyped for turned out to be a disappointment in his eyes, but it's pretty funny how the crew was using Detective to poke fun at their own show. I like that. Circa August 5th through August 21st. Stan wakes up annoyed to find Mabel put milk in his slippers since she didn't have anywhere else to put it. Right after that, a bulb in the kitchen burst that he could not replace because Dipper took the rest to build a suit for Seuss. His day gets worse when Wendy's friends egg him on at the grocery store when he's going to buy more bulbs, and his response to this mockery also ruined his plan to steal the light bulbs. And even after all that suffering, the light bulbs he bought them became useless one, Ford replaced it with a bulb that can last 1,000 years and give you smoother skin. Hoping TV would make him feel better, he learns the mayor of Gravity Falls is dead. Funniest name in the entire show, by the way.
Mayor Eustace Huckabone Befuftelfumpter.
This gets Stan thinking he should take up that position. Seeing Bud Gleeful almost become mayor right away, combined with Dipper talking about Ford being a good mayor candidate, was Stan's last straw. He fully committed to running as mayor. He riles the rest of the crowd up too by demanding a proper election race, which gets Tyler and some other citizens to join the run. When the kids doubt him, he tells them why he should run. He doesn't want to be just another crooked grifter until the death, especially with Ford's research probably making him famous eventually. I respect Stan for getting a head start on voter fraud though. Good on you, dude. Stan's first major hurdle in the election was the radio interview. He answers all the questions terribly, so Dipper had to cut the phone line before things got worse. But he doesn't want too much outside help, refusing to use Dipper and Mabel's prepared speech so he can speak his mind all he wants. The first public speech is off to such a bad start that Dipper had to use Ford's mind tie immediately. Their control worked wonders and the speech was a success. Stan was so used to never getting praise that he questioned what a round of applause was. For the next couple days, the twins' control of him gives him a major edge on Bud Gleeful. Circa August 7th through August 21st, 2012. It's election day and Stan confidently strolls the streets with many citizens praising him. He even gets a full sack of free pancakes once he enters the diner. When Dipper and Mabel question his different outfit missing the lucky tie, he's so confident that he'll win that he'll debate naked just to gloat. This causes he and Dipper to get into an argument, with Dipper eventually revealing the reason behind Stan doing so well. Stan then storms off in anger, vowing to win the election without anyone's help from here on out. During the opening of the debate, Stan tells Bud, who's been controlled by Gideon, that he'll debate him into the ground. Also, the way he's speaking makes Stan creeped out. Seeing Seuss come in as a last-minute candidate controlled by the twins makes Stan even angrier. When Dan Corduroy asks Stan's opinion on taxes, Stan answers by saying instead of taxes, they should wage wars on neighboring cities to simulate the economy, which drops his approval rating. His approval rating goes even lower after saying the Statue of Liberty is America's hottest landmark. But when Stan sees Dipper and Mabel dangling from the cliff, he leaves the debate to rescue them. Both parties realize their wrongdoings in the past few days and make amends. By the end, Stan earned the most birdseed as well as the birdly kiss from the eagle. Even though he won by votes, he wasn't elected due to his criminal past. Stan's not salty about it though, since the kids are still proud of him. To celebrate, they run off to vandalize Mayor Tyler's house. Circa August 8th through August 21st, 2012. Stan is finishing up pug smuggling when he hears Ford call a family meeting. Thinking the arrow Mabel shoots from her crossbow was a cop shooting at him, Stan has his smuggler friend floored away. Later in the day, Stan appears in Mabel's good deed montage when she puts a giant sticker on his face. Stan shows up again at the end of the episode to steal some of the treasure Mabel brought back. August 22nd, 2012. Stan is setting up an RV for a roadside revenge trip to get back at all the other tourist traps that pranked him over the years. He agrees to let Grenda and Candy come with him, only if they sign some NDAs first. On the way to the first stop, Stan tells Candy the pamphlets she's looking at are useless. He notices how Dipper got rejected by a girl and gives him what he thinks is good advice. If Dipper follows the Stan Pines 3 C's rule, he'll get girls no problem. Stan tells the kids about how it's dangerous to use the bathrooms at Stop 2, upside downtown, and his prank at this place was to roll the house right side up, thus making the attraction completely void. Stan's continued advice is for Dipper to practice on more girls before contacting the first one. While Dipper practices, Stan continues to prank more and more businesses. The two of them bond more at night, with Stan telling Dipper the beauty of flirting with girls on a road trip. He won't see any of them ever again. On the way to the final stop, Stan tells the kids this place known as Mystery Mountain is going to be the hardest place to prank. He offers $5 to whoever can tip the big blue ox statue at the entrance. Stan also tells Dipper to say yes to Candy even if he's not ready, because that's the best way to move on from Wendy. Then he starts flirting with the ticket woman, and it quote-unquote works so well that she invites him to spend her break together. But when they get to the top, the woman reveals she's a spider person. Thankfully, he's able to reach Dipper via walkie-talkie to let him know what happened before he gets eaten. Worrying about his own safety more, Stan prays for Paul Bunyan to save him. After the kids rescue him, they're forced to go down the world's slowest skytram. Thanks to Candy's quick thinking, they're able to break free from Darlene's webbing. He praises Candy's actions too. Right after though, he almost falls for Darlene's sweet talk when she transformed into her human disguise again. But he runs away when she starts spitting venom at him. All these experiences get Stan to admit to Dipper that he's a failure when it comes to women, which they're able to bond over. Stan's greeted with a gross sight when he returns home, seeing some of the people he's pranked vandalizing the shack. August 24th, 2012. Stan overhears Dipper and Mabel talking about good news and barges in to share his good news about his senior citizen ponytail kit coming in the mail a week from today. Apparently he's going through it. When the twins are planning their 13th birthday party, Stan denies them from throwing it at the shack because of the zombie incident, because he's still finding bits of undead lying around and such. Seeing how sad Mabel is after everything she went through today, he comes in to cheer up as best as he can. Ending the combo, reassuring her Dipper will be with her the whole way through. We all know that doesn't end up being the case later in the day. August 24th into August 25th, 2012, the events of Weirdmageddon. Stan doesn't even notice anything has happened yet, casually putting up signs when a goat starts eating his hat. He tries to kick it off the property, but it turns ginormous from a weirdness wave, so he flees. He runs for cover in the shack and notices it's invincible to weirdness because of the barrier Dipper and Ford put up. He appears later at the end of Weirdmageddon Part 2 as the new Chief of the Apocalypse, harboring the citizens who haven't been captured by Bill or his henchmen. He happily reunites with his family, glad they're all safe, then shows the twins what's been left behind of old Gravity Falls, with the Mystery Shack serving as home base. He explains how he survived and how McGucket brought surviving citizens to the shack. The plan is to stay inside and eat canned meat until they run out. Stan's learned to accept this is how life is now, commenting about Ford's plan to defeat Bill being his craziest idea yet. He tries to calm the crowd down after Dipper and Mabel get them riled up to take on Bill, saying the Mystery Shack can't move, so how can they even do anything? Which leads to McGucket's plan to turn it into a robot. Stan starts to feel powerless and disrespected because of this. He continues to be against McGucket's plan even with the blueprints looking as good as they do, but everyone follows through with the plan anyway. Later on, he's seen venting to Shmebulok the gnome about how nobody is taking him seriously even though he's the chief, loathing how Ford still hasn't thanked him for saving him and how Ford is always seen as this hero even though he's the main reason Weirdmageddon happened. Sucking it up for the time being, he further comments on how bad of an idea this was after Bill's henchmen pull up for the fight. During the fight, he tries to open the exit but isn't strong enough. Now with Bill distracted, Stan and the rest of the rescue team shoots out of the shack into Bill's castle to save Ford. Once Ford is saved, Stan is eager to get out of there as soon as possible. With Stan being the last one to complete the Zodiac Circle formation, he demands Ford thanks him before joining. Ford thanks him unenthusiastically and then corrects Stan's grammar, which causes the two of them to fight and mess up the Zodiac. Now that Bill's no longer distracted by the Mystery Shack, he ties up Stan and Ford, then turns everyone who's not a member of the Pines family into a decorative curtain. Mabel's spray paint attack on Bill's eye is able to briefly free them, but Bill traps them once again so they can't interfere with the chase towards the twins. Stan regrets all the decisions he's made during Weirdmageddon, and even agreeing with his father's statements about him being a screw-up. Ford tells Stan the only way Bill can be defeated is if he's erased while inhabiting a mind. This is where the switcheroo plan comes into play. The two brothers switch clothes, making Bill think he's actually invading Ford's mind when it's actually Stan's. Stan sacrificed his mind if it meant his family and the world was saved. But now struck with amnesia, Stan can't even remember his own family. Mabel tries to help him regain his memories by showing him scrapbook pictures, but he's still confused until Waddles licking him triggers an awakening. August 31st, 2012. Stan's memory is fully back and Ford has some serious news. Ford found new strange anomalies around the Arctic Ocean and wants Stan to come with him on this adventure. They can finally do what they dreamt of as kids. Stan's very eager to find treasure and hotties along the way. Stan announces the Mystery Shack is going to be shut down under his management, giving Seuss newfound ownership. September 1st, 2012. Stan gives his very heartfelt goodbye to the twins, also threatening the bus driver if he doesn't allow Waddles to accompany them. Circa late 2012 through 2013. Stan finally gets his happy ending with his brother and the two of them enjoy the adventure of a lifetime on the Arctic Ocean. Holy crap, that might have been the longest video I've ever made. If you stuck this out the whole way through, you're a beast. Also wanted to give you guys a quick thank you for helping me get to over 60,000 subscribers. I'm hoping to be at 100,000 by the end of the year. You know, that'd honestly be amazing. Let me know if there's any other characters you'd like me to do timeline videos on in the comments down below. I was thinking about doing one on my alter ego Seuss next. What do y'all think? Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below. It helps me out a ton. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.